Cut it down the middle. Now the kid's getting a late start this morning, but I'm gonna try to get concrete in the 5-pole set here. Just got 2 more to go. There's rain in the forecast, so I'm gonna go ahead and get these poured, and then I have time, I'll get these other 2. I got set up here, or pretty well set up. Got my concrete from the box store. Let me tell you a little tip when you go to a box store. It's something I found that works pretty good. Bought these bags here. This one here was really tore up, and that was tore up. I asked the young man helping me, I said, have you got any recovery bags? If you can get these recovery bags, a lot of times you can get that at 50% off and you're almost getting a full bag. Just a little tip. Ask them for a recovery bag if you see something busted there on the floor. Topsoil, concrete, something in a bag. Get your recovery bag and you can get a discount. And sometimes if you go to the manager of that department and say, hey, what can I get that for? They'll help you out even more. So I got set up here, and something that I'm found, especially as you get a little bit older, and with this kind of electric mixer, it's just easier loading that thing with a half a bag than a whole bag. So what I'll do is lay the bag on here, cut it in half, mix a half a bag, pour it in. I mean, I might mix the whole bag, but anyway, you get what I'm talking about. When you're working with concrete, you probably already know this, but you want to wet down, like if you're using a shovel or a mixer, you want to wet the inside of it to start with. To cut a bag in half, just put your crease right there, take your fingers and lift it up from the bottom, like that. Then you can tear it or you can cut it, either one. I usually just take my hand and tear it. And now you're set to go. 40 pounds. I'm not the smartest man in the world, but 40 pounds is lighter than 80 pounds. Something to remember when you're mixing mud, you can always add more water, but you can't take it back out. I know you know that, but just thought I'd throw that out there. You might notice I stuck me a little piece of plywood down here on the bottom just to keep the mud off the post. Cut it down the middle. Personally, I like doing this up about waist high. Just makes it easier on the fella, you know what I mean? Now obviously, if you don't have one of these mixers, you can do one of 2 things. Mix it in a wheelbarrow or don't even mix it. Just pour it in the hole. Because I'll tell you something, it's going to get hard. But it is stronger. I've heard people say, I don't know. But it is stronger if you mix it before you put it in the hole. I mean, the bag tells you just add water, so I don't know. I think I may have mentioned I'm not terribly concerned with uplift down here at this job. Something I did go ahead and do is put me a brick tie on each one of them. Just put a screw in it and that'll be in the concrete. So any uplift that wanted to happen probably ain't going to. While that's spinning, tell you everything I know about concrete. No, I can't. I do know a little bit about concrete, but the process of the water leaving the concrete is called hydration. The more water you put into it, the wetter your concrete is, the weaker it is. So if you're pouring around your post, you want it wet, obviously, where you can work it, but you don't want it too wet. You don't want it like grandma's potato soup now, okay? Just get it wet enough for it to move, but not too wet. Kids had a busy day, and I'm not sure that I'm going to have enough energy, strength, stamina, time to put in that last post. I'll see you in the morning. Oh, and somebody suggested to get me one of them corner things, you know, that you can just strap onto your post and it plumbs it both ways. I got one. I couldn't find it. And like I think I may have said, that's a 9-inch auger. As deep as I'm going, which is not terrible deep, takes about a bag and a half per hole. That one's gonna take more. But you know what? I got an extra bag. And that's probably always a good thing, because I can't make a bag out of thin air. Although, I tell you what, have you bought any Sackcrete lately? That stuff, I mean, when I went up to the register and that lady rang that thing up, I wanted to tell her, of course it's not her fault. She didn't set the price. But man, here you just get a little concrete in that wall tie right there, set up for a couple of days. Bam, she's there. So, you don't ever want to mix mud in a dry barrel. Anytime with concrete, wet your tools down before you. I know you know that. I know you know that. But anytime you're using concrete, wet her down before you start. This makes it a whole lot easier on the cleanup. You know what I'm saying? Shoot, that's a mighty small bag. I'm just going. Yeah, that's a 50-pounder. That was one of them I did a recovery on. That was. It gets a little dusty here, or gets a lot dusty, for just a minute. I got that a little bit wet. If you want to see what a little bit wet is, look in there. That's a little bit wet. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it was a little bit wet. Now, you might be one of those that might try to throw that in there while it's running, but it's not advisable. You know what I mean? And you don't want to get no big hurry mixing now, because you got a lot of what they call aggregate in there. You got some stone, you got some sand, you got some cement, and you know, you get too big a hurry, you're not going to mix it up properly, and then you're going to have weak concrete. So give it just a minute. Now I hope you know you don't have to use one of these jet things. This is just all I could find at my quick disposal. I'm gonna bring the gravel up almost to that. One more little moss and the concrete work is done. I'm gonna go ahead and take 1 second here to show you what I was talking about earlier. I would recommend, especially if this is, you know, one of the first times you started out or something, is instead of setting your middle post, put me a line up here about yay high. You have to figure out what yay is. And then we're going to go down to the other end and we're going to fasten another screw yay high. Now, what I want to do is pull this line. Let me show you how to make this knot. You may know how to do it. Probably most of you do, but some of you might not. This is a little knot that you can put on your string. You sort of find, see, I know this is going to make it tight on that screw if I put a loop right here. So what you do is you take your finger and you fold this back like that, okay? And then lap that over and bring it right up through that hole. Just like that. Now that will hook on that screw, but when I want to get shed of it, I can just pull it right like that. All right, I'll do it one more time. Fold that like that, okay? Fold it, bring it up through the hole. And now you got something to hook on your screw that will come right back out when you get ready. All right, so let's go check this middle post and see how close we are. And now I know that post, this post, and this post up there where I'm going to be cutting it off is in a perfect straight line. Does that make sense? If you're thinking ahead of me, you probably ought to say, hey Steve, why don't you do that on your back? Let's see how it looks. You're right, you're thinking ahead of me. That ain't gonna happen. Because the kid might not be perfect back there, okay? But close enough. I think that's more than a 2-bag hole. I may have to put some gravel in. I know I'm going to. And this is perfectly fine. You need to add a little aggregate to it. I mean, you don't want to dilute it so much to where you lose your concrete. But that sure makes it look like real concrete. Now we've made an 80-pound bag into a 100-pound bag. This here is called a pine vibrator. Not real expensive. Actually, this is a poplar vibrator. Not real expensive. You can pick one up down at your local log yard. I think we're going to hit it about right. There's something you want to do when you're pouring concrete. As soon as you get done, clean your tools up. And if you don't mind, I'm going to make one more suggestion in your cleanup. It's not a good idea to clean up in your driveway because inevitably either you or somebody else will drive right over where you cleaned up your concrete and that stuff won't come off your vehicle. Clean up as soon as you finish up. That way you can preserve your equipment. I'm going to probably splatter a whole lot here. So guys, let me show you where I'm at and where I'm headed. Got all the posts set. I'm done with the batter boards. I just left them up so you can see the strings that I used to set the post by. Those were poured yesterday, so I'll give them a couple more days and we can start putting some beams. Now I mentioned that the best thing to do is put a string across the top and a spring across the bottom from your end post to the end post if you got middle post, and then set your middle post by the string. And I told you that I didn't do that, although I probably should have, but I told you I'd come back and check it. Well, I was cleaning up and I thought, you know, it's just not right for me not to show what my check turned out to be. So let me show you here. I've got the upper string about a 1/2 inch off of the post. So if I come down to the second post, it's about a 1/2 inch off the string. Come down to the third post, it's about a 1/2 inch off the string. Come down to the last post, and it's a 1/2 inch off the string. So that just goes to show that, yeah, you can set it using a level, but it's just going to be easier on you, especially if this is one of your first time doing it, if you'll go from string from end to end and then set your middle post to your strings. It'll just make your life a whole lot easier. I'm glad that's done. We got the post all set. The concrete's all poured. Next thing in line, we'll be shooting a grade for the post. These 3 posts here, I'm debating between either 9'6" and 10 feet. I'm not sure yet exactly. The back side, I'm thinking 82 inches off a grade. So probably a 312 pitch is sort of what I got in my mind, but I'm not sure. Hey, I'm done. I'm not gonna see you in the morning, but I'll see you in the next one.